And welcome back. This is the great classic rock debate. I'm Kenny,
Paul with zero qualifications.
And I'm Steve.
and we talk anything and everything classic rock. We try to keep it interesting. We try to have fun. If you're watching right now, please like, comment, and subscribe. We will love you for that. Fellas, today is Thursday, October 31st. It is Halloween night. So I guess it would be sort of natural or predictable or whatever. Nice, Wolfman. To do a Halloween themed show. However, we've done it before, and I don't know if there's a lot we could add to what we've done before. So my thoughts were, let's just sort of open the show. And if you guys have anything cool or interesting you want to throw out there about Halloween, we can do that. Spend a few minutes on that. And then, Paul, you had mentioned a few weeks back that you'd like to do a discussion of rock stars who died tragically and prematurely in a plane crash. And I
Yeah.
think that opens a lot of interesting doors. Plus, maybe I'm crazy, but it has almost like a Final Destination vibe to it. And it's Halloween, so it might go.
That's kind of where I was going with it.
All
Yeah.
right, it's kind of cool. So, anyways, all right, let's just start. Anybody have any thoughts on Halloween or great Halloween songs that need a mention or something like that?
Well, I was asking both of you on the text chat, is there a song that scares you? Not it's creepy or it's creepy and it scares you, or have you ever had like a secret you don't want anyone to know? If I put that song on, you get in a weird mood. I'm not sure if there's any for me. There's weird songs, but I don't know
Okay,
if there's a weird song that
I'm
scare
going
me.
to answer you like this, and I hope that this sort of answers your question. I'm just going to take a song like Don't Fear the Reaper. Okay, I'm going to use it as my
Right.
example. Okay,
Oh, good one.
if
Yeah.
I'm in the car driving down the road and that song comes on, there's absolutely nothing scary about it. Okay. Yeah,
Right.
I
Nothing.
mean, I know what the song's about, and the Reaper is death, so I get all that. But if you are walking down a dark corridor somewhere and that song was playing, or if used selectively in a movie scene, whatever, it could definitely be scary. So there's a lot of context involved in that particular question. But yeah, I mean there are so listen, this is probably gonna sound stupid, but that movie, Jeepers Creepers, okay? You guys have both seen it, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Okay, it's not a great movie, but for the type of movie that it is, it's better than average.
yeah. I enjoyed it. Yeah, for
And
what it
I
is.
did too. And that song, Jeepers Creepers, which is like a 1940s big band type of song,
Yeah,
it is creepy and scary in that movie because every time it comes on, something bad is about to happen.
God, it's a
that's
brilliant.
true.
I said because I'm sorry, Steve. In the Captain America comic books, the comic books, whenever the Red Skull would appear, they would play the song "Deutschland über alles." Germany is the best, or on top, and then he would kill people. So that's and the Captain America. I think he picks up on that. So, but it was strange in the movie they never picked up on that. But if you, God, that's brilliant, Kenny. It's like the place. I think the only song we talked about, Steve, that was scary-ish is Black Sabbath.
Yes, I was gonna say that's the only song that I think that I would
It
say is
is.
scary. I don't find "Don't Fear the Reaper" scary, even if I was in a dark alley, because I've just never associated like the music itself. Take out the lyrics; it's not a scary song.
Agreed.
No,
Yeah, I totally agree.
But
Totally agree.
aside from the Black Sabbath song, Black Sabbath, the
Which
only other
is,
song, and it's the soundtrack, is like the theme to Halloween from John Carpenter.
yeah.
oh hell, oh you hit a home run, Steve.
Yeah,
Home run
no,
to Steve.
definitely. And you know the song Black Sabbath, if you close your eyes, you are practically sitting in a dark, foggy cemetery
Yeah,
in a terrible weather. I mean, it's
Yeah.
yeah, it brings all of that to the table. It does.
it's funny how they people rip Black Sabbath. You're talking about God and Satan. Yeah, God and Satan exist, and they're talking about it. And Satan's scary, and yes, you should fear him. Like that, that's what I'm getting from Black Sabbath. People say they were worshiping the devil.
Oh
That's
no,
silly. I
no,
know
they're not. If
they're not.
in fact, like
Right.
the last album they put out, there's this the best song on that on album it's called 13, God is Dead, and that if you listen to Ozzy actually talk about it, he said it's very clear that I don't know if he ever says he's certainly religious. Now I don't know if he would consider himself a Christian. I have no idea. But that the whole point of the song is that it's a question mark and they're not saying that God is dead. It's just a kind of a play on words, so to speak. But
Yeah, like there was a song I didn't listen to for years because I was scared, believe me. There Is No God by Extreme. It's the first song on whatever the name of that album is. God, I'm getting old. But and then I started looking it up, and it says evidently Gary Sharon's a very religious guy, and he's saying that in a parody way, like Steve just said.
Okay.
So
I will say this, there is an album, the first time I saw it, I was a little scared of it. And it's the Marilyn Manson album of I can't remember. It's got Sweet Dreams on it, but he's dressed
Yeah.
up as like the witch. I remember getting that and going, this is like it was my first introduction. It was before he actually blew up. A friend of mine was telling me like, got to check out this Marilyn Manson guy. So I got to,
His
I'm a
his
teenager.
version, any song that he covers, he almost definitely makes it into something creepy and scary. He does. His version of Sweet Dreams is very creepy, and the original is not, but his version is.
Yeah, but check out the album cover. Like getting it as a teenager and being like, "What is this Marilyn Manson guy all about?" And you see it. There's a guy dressed as a witch, and you just listen to the whole album. It's pretty creepy. So,
Yeah.
but now knowing what Marilyn Manson is and being an adult, it's kind of laughable. But at the
Right.
time, it was just kind of
Steve, you're right, Steve. Yeah, and that's who he's going for. That's right.
Right. Okay. Any further thoughts on Halloween? You guys want to transition on over to rock stars killed in plane crashes?
Well,
let's do it.
let's
Okay.
do it. Well,
Well,
go ahead.
if we're going to do this, we have to start with the day the music died. We have to start with
Yeah,
that one.
yeah.
Okay. Where we go after that, it doesn't matter. We have to start with the day the music died. And you've all heard that phrase a million times in the song American Pie. But it's not just a phrase, it has a very specific date attached to it. February 3rd, 1959. And that was when Buddy Holly, Richie Valens, and the other guy, the Big Bopper,
Bopper.
were all
And Lou
killed.
Diamond Phillips.
Phillips, right? Uh, we're all killed in a plane crash. And well, I'll tell you something. That scene, I guess it was in La Bamba, where Richie Valens and the other guy toss a coin. I mean, it's the weather's bad, and
It's
no one wants to ride a cold bus for hours, so they'd rather take the short flight. So they toss a coin to see who gets to get on the plane, and Richie Valens wins the coin toss. He was 17. He gets on board the plane, which then crashes a few minutes later, and everybody's killed.
wasn't that supposed to be Waylon Jennings?
The guy's name was Tommy Alsup, Allsup. I Googled it just before we came on because I wanted to make sure I had the name right. Waylon
Okay.
Jennings was in the band. I think he was in somebody's band, but he wasn't supposed to be on the plane.
I thought he okay. I thought he was supposed to be on the plane, and somehow that
If so, that was a separate story. But the
okay.
coin toss thing was Richie Valens and a guy named Tommy Alsup, and Richie Valens won. Well, using the word
Yeah.
won. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
And so those guys, Buddy Holly was 22, Richie Valens was 17. It's just so heartbreaking to think about that now. I was probably a kid or a teenager when I first heard this story, and it didn't mean that much to me. And then I saw that movie with Gary Busey. I think he was nominated for an Oscar.
Yeah,
It's
it
one of
was
the
good.
best. It's one of the best rock and roll movies that you'll
Peggy
ever
Sue.
see.
Peggy
And
Sue.
yeah, and even in watching it, the impact, I didn't think about it till years later because he was 22. I think he had just gotten married to,
I
what's her
didn't
name,
realize
Maria.
that. Wow.
Oh, it's
Yeah,
horrible.
I didn't
it,
realize he was that young. That's
yeah, he was
Yeah,
incredible.
so young. He was just a kid, and think of how many amazing songs he had already written and sung at the age of 22. His career was just starting. He would have been Elvis before there was Elvis. I mean, there's no telling what he would have done and achieved. And he
Yeah.
was killed. Yeah, it's sad. So sad.
Well, that event on its own is super sad. But think about how many other people after them died, and you're like, damn it, don't get on a small plane.
Right.
It's suck it up and ride a stupid bus or ride commercial. They probably didn't have too much commercial back then. Like I don't know when that officially. We should look that up.
No,
TWA and
it's interesting. I've actually kind of looked up the history of commercial aviation because the cost back then was so much just to fly a commercial.
Oh, okay.
Like the
well,
equivalent, like back in I mean, this is a few years before the day the music died, but the equivalent of like flying on a commercial airplane in the 30s, it was like 20, $30,000 for like a cross country
Oh,
ticket.
wow.
So like it
Okay.
was only for really wealthy people back then. But
Okay.
did you see that commercial? It was a reenactment of there was some guy in Illinois and he wanted to go to Chicago. So there's this guy with a crop duster. He's talking to him now because this wasn't the actual event. He says, "Let me get this straight. You want me to fly you to Chicago for 4 hours, wait there, and then bring you back? Yeah, how much you pay me? Like $500." The guy goes, "I'm doing it." As soon as he said how much he paid him, the guy's like, "Yes,"
Oh.
and that's how it started.
Oh, okay. Wow.
I think that was Eastern, but don't hold me to that. But yeah, it was fascinating. Like, oh,
Okay.
at some point this had to have happened.
Oh, I'm sure.
But
Yeah.
it's
Yeah. Yeah.
so so
Okay,
anyways,
let's move forward. So February 3rd, 1959, the day the music died. Let's move forward. When's the next
let's talk about that song a little bit.
American Pop?
Now you
Okay.
don't like that song, am I right?
Me?
Yeah, because I
No,
thought we talked about it. You said,
no. I not only do I love the song, but as the years have passed and those somewhat esoteric lyrics have sort of coalesced and begun to make more and more sense over the years, I have, I mean, my love and respect and esteem for that song, it has grown and grown and grown. It is a masterpiece. It really is.
and harking back, I don't let Steve talk. 'Cause I'm talking too much. To a show we did like a year ago, it had that radio edit, and I heard
Right.
that radio edit like 10 times, and then finally somebody had the. I'm not sure if it could fit on a 45 because I don't
No,
know.
the 45 had one half of the song on
Oh,
side
that's
one
it.
and one half of
Okay.
the song on side two. But when radio played it, they just played side one. You know, that was
Yeah.
it.
The day, the music. Hold on.
Right, right,
Died. Steve never had to go through
I
that.
never had to
So,
go through that.
right,
Kate and I have done it. So, and I'm like, hold it. Where are these lyrics coming from?
right.
So he goes, that's the first time I had heard radio edit in my life.
Yeah.
So he didn't have a lot of hits besides that, right?
Correct. He was a he was a singer-songwriter type of guy. He has a handful of other, in my opinion, very good songs.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Yeah.
one called Vincent, which is about
That's the
Vincent
other
Van
one.
Gogh. Masterpiece. Okay,
Yeah.
but it's a soft rock song. It's not a hard rock song. Really.
Yeah.
He did a remake of a Roy Orbison song, "Crying," I think it was, in
Oh, I
the
love that
early
song.
'80s. Yeah, and a couple of others. So I would say he's got a half a dozen songs that you probably heard and that you would say, "Wow, that's a good song." But again, he falls much more into that singer-songwriter category than he does classic rock.
Yeah. If you
Well,
listen, the song Vincent, which I really like, I mean, that is
Oh,
stereotypical of like a 70s soft rock kind of ballad from
yeah,
like, 19, I don't know what year it came out, but it seems very like early mid 70s.
71 probably. Yeah,
Yeah.
because
It's a
I
great
saw
song. That's the only other song of his that I know.
yeah.
I saw a poll. I think you and I talked about this 20 years ago, and it had the best American rock song or best rock song ever, and it won for the best rock song ever, and it won for worst rock song ever.
Oh, is that right? I
Yeah,
didn't know
because
that.
it was like there's this demarcation of people who hate it and people who like it.
Okay.
It made
Well,
me laugh.
I can't think of another artist who came out with like such a groundbreak. I don't know if groundbreaking is the right term, but like just such a classic song and never had like one like another semi big hit. Because even Vincent, I wouldn't say was a big hit,
No,
but
it wasn't. No.
like the dichotomy between like the highest high and like the average of everything else is
Yeah,
just
no, you're right. It's a good
it's kind
point.
of surprising.
I mean,
It's a good point.
poor guy doing a concert. Vincent, I love you. I'm making up the lyrics. No, American Pie, American Pie,
Right.
American Pie. Right?
Play Werewolves of London.
Like,
Well,
but
he did have two
without
songs though.
yeah, okay.
what?
but he did.
Warriors, Guns,
But
and Money. That's a great song.
he had several other good ones too. But
Oh, I
Johnny
love
Strikes
Warren
Up the
Zevon.
Band is a great song.
I
But
love Warren Zevon, baby.
but American Pie, and we're not doing this tonight, but American Pie, it really has a deeper meaning, especially pertaining to his Christianity and so forth. It's got a deeper meaning, and it's really breathtaking to hear somebody really explain it thoroughly, and you'll just go, "Wow, heard that song a million times and never even came close to getting it." But yeah,
Well,
anyway.
on YouTube now, there's a version of it, and it has the words printed on the song. It's really cool when people do that because you're like, did he say "I love you" or like some weird arcane
Right,
lyric?
right.
Like for instance, Steve, here's a question for Steve. When Luke fails to lift the X-wing fighter, and he says, "I don't believe it," what exactly does Yoda say?
That is why you have failed.
Failed or fail?
Failed, as in past tense.
Okay,
I
that's
think
what
it says that is why you failed. I think.
See, that's why that I've seen that movie, I don't know, 5,000 times, and I cannot say is it fail or failed.
I think it's failed.
I agree with you, but I just can't. It's not that clear.
I
Yeah,
don't think it
well,
really makes a. I don't think there's a bigger.
No, but if they printed it up there,
That
right.
is why
But
you
Paul,
failed.
your point though, I embraced this years ago. The YouTube version with the lyrics, I will always choose over the one that doesn't have it, even though there are plenty of cases of people who get the lyrics wrong. But you know,
oh, tell me a lie. Tell
right,
me.
right, right,
Okay.
right. Okay, let's move on.
All right. So now, singer songwriter, like Steve said something so brilliant. That's Jim Croce. That's where I want to go next.
Okay, but do you want to jump? If we're chronological,
Uh,
we're jumping over
uh,
Otis Redding. So do you want to or not?
no. I'm not jumping on Otis Redding. Take us away on Otis Redding.
Okay, and it was 68, I believe, and you know, he's another guy whose career. I mean, he was from the poorest areas of South Georgia, near Albany, whatever, and just lived in the worst conditions. But the guy had this amazing Southern soulful voice, you know,
Hell yes.
and for the style of singing he did, he was as good as you could get. And so this guy in Memphis, Stax Records, STAX, they discovered him and brought him in. They started recording songs and making records, and his career was just taking off. And he was a real student. Like, he was not only writing songs, but he sat down and listened to Sergeant Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band by the Beatles. Listened to it through all the way through over and over again. And in his mind, he was like, this is taking me to a whole new place artistically. Like, his songs were somewhat, I guess we would say, unsophisticated prior to that. And he was like, wow, I've got this whole new thing now, where he had this image in his mind, wanted the song to take you to a faraway place. And the song was sitting on the dock of the bay. And think about it. When you hear that song, I don't care if you're in South Florida, you are sitting on a dock in San Francisco. It takes you there. I mean, he had this whole concept thing. It was great. The song was released as a single and went to number one just weeks later, and he died between the day it was released and the day it hit number one in a plane crash.
Now, where did that happen?
Never got to see it.
I
it.
never knew that. Now it makes sense why I'd never heard of him. You only had a couple of songs. So yeah.
Yeah.
Kenny, where did that happen?
You know what? Good question. It was somewhere in the South, I'm pretty sure, but I don't know exactly where. I could probably find it really
Did he crash into the dock?
Very funny, you guys.
I know this girl. I used to know this woman, very attractive woman named Laureen. She went to Florida State, and that's her number one song of all time. So one day we went skydiving together, and she played it about 3 or 4 times in a car. She's like, I said, dude, I love this song. What are you talking about? Like, it's a really good song.
Let me see. Here it is. Killed in the icy waters of Lake Monoma near Madison. Okay, it was Wisconsin. It wasn't in the South. Yeah.
Oh, God.
But again, it was winter, and they go into they crash into a cold lake. So even if they survive the crash, they freeze, you know. So
don't get it. Like, it's just playing Russian roulette with your life back then.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, back then, I mean,
Right.
Everything, everything was a lot more. Cars
So
were
low
more
tech
bigger.
compared to what we know
Yeah.
it as now. Yeah. Okay. So Otis Redding and some of his band members too. In fact, the surviving band members, I think, went on to form a group called the Barkays. You guys have probably heard of them.
Of
Big in the
course. Yeah.
70s. Yeah.
Yeah, I know them.
But tragic because again, his career was just taking off. He had been recording for a few years, but it had been more of a regional type of thing. And now all of a sudden he's got this massive #1 hit, but too late, he's dead. Okay, Jim Croce next.
Yeah, I'm obsessed now with watching Rick Beato. And
Right.
oh my God, so he does a 30-minute thing on Operator with this really pretty British woman who's a really good singer.
Yeah, I
And he's
saw
kind of
that.
they deconstruct that song.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, like I heard that song about 175 trillion times,
Yeah.
and it never hit me. You know, like to say about the lyrics. I can't read the lyrics. I'm trying to like, and
Yeah.
so oh my God, so now he had
It's
his
gut
guitar player.
wrenching. I got to tell. I was 12. First time I heard it, I could tell it was sad, but I didn't
Yeah,
fully
exactly.
understand the meaning. And I knew that when he said "There's something in my eyes," he was tearing up. I got that, but it wasn't until years later when I finally read the lyrics somewhere. I remember, and I'm like, "Oh my God, his best friend and his girl, who he was in love with, they're together now. Like she left him to be with his ex best friend Ray, and I was like, oh, it's like getting punched in the gut over and over again. I'm just like, oh, I finally understand, and that the music and the guitar work and the vocal, it expresses that heartbreak and that angst. Oh man, so good.
I didn't
I mean,
realize
Steve.
that's what I didn't realize that's what Bad Bad Leroy Brown was about.
Yeah, I, but he had like his first two albums. He had like 8 or 9 hits. Not, I mean, hits. Like
Right,
you know, don't mess around. Don't bug on Superman's skateboard. Right.
right.
It's a great song. It's not
I'm
the most
learning a
ever.
lot today because maybe I knew this at one point, but I think had forgotten he died in a plane crash.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
You know, another thing I like about Jim Croce is his choruses. I was trying to go through my mind. I know a lot of music, and so do
Paul,
you two.
excuse me for 1 second. September
Yeah.
20th, 1973 was when Jim Croce died. So I would have been 12.
And so his choruses, like, uh, are just like crushed. They're 4 parts. I mean, like that song, I Have a Name,
Yeah,
Take Me Out on the Highway. So life, she says it 3 times. So life doesn't pass me by.
right,
That is like, whoa. Now I was trying to think of other bands where we had this, you know, they no, most choruses, A, B, A, B. This one's A, B, right? It's interesting. His choruses are, I don't know. Like if you think about don't mess around with Jim, don't tug on Superman's cape, you don't spit in the wind.
right.
And what did he say about the Lone Ranger?
you don't
Like,
pull the
You don't
mask
pull the mask.
off the
and
old
then
Lone Ranger.
Yeah,
and you don't mess. So it's four. It's A, B, C, D.
right.
That is
It's
a
cool. Like,
that is such a simple but just a really good catchy song, and I have never turned the dial when that song has come on the radio.
Right, right.
but you know, it's when I was older or younger and stupid. I heard a lot of these songs, I just didn't appreciate them.
Yeah.
As you get older and you reflect on your life, and
You're right, and especially that song "I Have a Name," the one that you just mentioned. Yeah, I was a teenager, but when I got older, I heard it as an adult, and we talk about his father having a name, who then named him, and now he's carrying that name through his life. Man, it just hits you in a deep way that it doesn't when you're a kid. And I just go, wow, that is good. That is really, really good stuff. It is.
and, and like the guitar player, like Rick Beato, is playing the parts,
Yeah.
and
Yeah, I
he's
saw that.
jumping around all these chords. Steve, he's going like one of the sections like 5 or 4 chords, right? What's that called? Arpeggiation, I think. But Rick, don't get mad.
Arpeggio is like if you're playing a chord and you just play each note individually. So,
Okay, that's what Johnny Marr does. The Smiths.
well, that's what a lot of people do. So it's not
Okay.
a
I think Johnny Marr is the master of that stuff, but people can argue with me about that.
Well, Rick Beato mentions the guy's name who
Yeah,
played guitar for Jim Croce.
yeah.
Mick, was it Mick something or other?
Oh
And,
gosh.
and he 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 really went to lengths to explain how this guy's guitar work was just masterful, and how it wasn't just his ability, his skill. He had an ability to then sort of convey the emotion of the song with it. And I'm going, he's right. The guy did that. I don't know how you do that, but he did that. It's like a
Maury Mulison.
yeah. It's like a sixth sense almost. Yeah.
Another thing that Rick Beato did, and I don't know if you guys picked up on it, he does. The guy, he's well versed. So one of the songs, I think it was this guy or another guy, he goes, yeah, people are like this, too many notes. Did either one of you get that joke?
No.
He's commenting about a song, and he goes, and he looked at the camera and goes, too many notes. Like he's making fun of people who would sit. That's why they don't like it. That's what the king of Germany or Austria says when Mozart does one of his productions, and Salieri looks over and sees the king yawn. He goes, I knew God was smiling on this day because the king was finally bored with something that Mozart did. So Mozart goes, hey, did you like it? That's too many notes. The king of Austria says there's too many notes. And Mozart says, well, which ones would you want me to take out? And so Rick Beato picked up on that. Dude, you're a genius. As soon as he said I started
Wow.
howling, I know where he's talking about.
Oh,
So
wow. That's good. Yeah. I would have never gotten that.
Yeah.
I
yeah, too
remember,
many
I remember when
notes.
he said it. I just didn't get it at all. So,
Yeah.
okay.
All right. So Jim Croce, who's next on our list?
Probably Leonard Skinner.
What about Nelson died in the 80s. Ricky Nelson, Skinner, but it was other people, right? There's trying to think.
Well, Croce was in 73 and Leonard Skinner was in 77. So I don't know if there's anybody before
Okay,
that.
all right.
That sounds
Maybe
like
I'm wrong.
Well, I'm just looking at this list, and there's somebody on here that is kind of pre-rock, and it's Glenn Miller.
wow.
Good one, Steve.
Okay. I never knew
Home
he
run,
died in a plane
Steve.
crash. That is
It's
good, though.
in
I didn't
Europe during
realize
the
that
war.
either. But that, I mean, that had he been around in the 60s,
Yes.
he would have been definitely been rock and roll.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was badass. Now, was there conspiracy theory about that, Steve?
I don't know. I don't know
I
much
think he
about it.
died. He died over in Europe. It was a plane in Europe or England or something, right?
I'm not 100% sure. I'm
Because it
terrible
wasn't
today.
with that. And then when did John F. Kennedy's older brother die? I think it was pretty close in time. Remember, he died in World War II because John Kennedy was not supposed to be president. It was the older brother who died in the war.
Yeah, I don't
I don't know if it's a plane crash, but anyway, sorry, I'm digressing
sometime
from
between
classic rock.
41 and 45.
Yeah, but Glenn Miller, yeah, he was monster big,
Yeah.
big band, cool stuff. Steve likes
Yeah.
the big band stuff too.
I'm a
I
big,
like
big band guy.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that. That's good.
especially live.
Yeah.
I'll go see any of that stuff live.
I consider it, I mean, it's basically the foundations of rock and roll.
I agree. It was a
Couldn't
predecessor.
agree more.
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah, it
Yep.
was.
All right, so let's talk about.
Okay, so
We
Leonard
love
Skinner.
Glenn
So,
Miller. Yeah.
oh,
Skinner.
yeah,
Go
okay.
ahead.
I don't really have anything to add for Glenn Miller, even though that's a good choice. So can we go to Skinner?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm pretty sure it was October of 77. I know I was a senior in high school. I had gotten out of the car that morning. I rode with one of the neighbors who lived down the street. Got out of the car and walked up, and we would get to school 10 or 15 minutes before the first bell, and people just sort of stood around in front of the school in little groups and talked about whatever, sports or the Dolphins or something.
Yeah.
And so when I came walking up, there was a group of about 6 or 8 standing there, and somebody said, "Did you hear Skinner died?" Now, there was a guy in my class at high school whose last name was Skinner. Okay. He wasn't a close friend of mine, but I knew that some of the guys standing in that circle knew him pretty well. I don't remember his first name. So when someone said, "Did you hear Skinner died?" I thought they're talking about the guy who's in our high school. And I go, "What happened to him?" And he said, "Plane crash." And I was like, "What?"
What?
Why was this guy on a plane?
Yeah.
Slow down. Start
I
over.
just saw him yesterday. Yesterday, between yesterday and this morning, he got on a plane somewhere and died. I don't get it. And someone said, yeah, like 3 or 4 band members. And I went, band? Oh, they're talking about Leonard Skinner. I totally missed it. And so it's a weird thing because Leonard Skinner had already had a couple of pretty good sized hits in Sweet Home Alabama and Freebird, but most of their material over those next few years was getting played on rock radio, FM rock radio, but not on top 40 radio. So it was very easy to sort it when you first heard it to even say something like, "Oh, I haven't heard of them in a while," you know. So anyway, but that's how I found out, and it was in somewhere that was in the South, wasn't it, Louisiana?
So yeah, it's. I was at gym my freshman year in high school, and these two redneck girls come in, and they're crying like I'm like, what the hell's going on with you? You didn't hear? Oh, Leonard Skinner died plane crash. I'm like, what? I thought
Gillsburg,
they were.
near Gillsburg, Mississippi.
No idea where that is.
I don't either, but a terrible place to be when your plane goes down. That's all I can
Yeah.
say.
Yeah,
Real quick, what
but
is your
yeah,
favorite Leonard Skinner song?
Kenny,
Okay, so if I have to pick one, I'm not going to go for one of the known hits.
good boy.
I'm gonna pick one that I just love it because of the guitar, and it's That Smell. I just
Great
love that
song.
searing guitar. I love that song. Great song.
Mine is "You Got That Right." That's my favorite. When
Good
I hear that,
choice.
I'm like, and those, hold on. That's what was the song about where they're fighting in the what's your
Give
name?
me 3 steps.
No, where they're fighting. No, the one of the guru had to go with one of the guests. Oh, what a mess! Police say we can't drink in the bar. That's what's your name?
Okay, all
Uh,
right,
uh, their last album because they had hired Steve Gaines, which is the sister of their girlfriend agent, somebody in the band,
something
and
like
that guy
that.
was a really good player. And he came up with all these new songs, and Leonard Skinner was about to blow up
Right,
again.
right.
And those like that, you got that right. And I was like, wow, I love this song. But
Yeah.
and then they died. It's like horrible.
All right, Steve. What about you?
I'm gonna have to go with "They Call Me the Breeze," which I know that
Oh,
they didn't. I don't think they
they
wrote
didn't
that,
write. No,
No,
you're.
as a cover.
but I just love the guitar tracks on that.
It's wonderful. Yeah.
Yeah. No
We,
arguments here, dude.
I had a roommate in college who his nickname was Breeze, and I had never heard that song before. It wasn't until after he had moved out and kind of lost contact, then I heard that song and I was like, I wonder if that's where he got his nickname from. So
Probably, probably. Trying to think of who did the original of that.
it's
Wasn't
JJ
it
Cale.
J.J. Cale? That was it. And I think he also wrote "Cocaine," Eric Clapton song.
Mm.
Oh wow! You know what's really cool about Skinner? Forget the music, which is unimaginably good. They had two guitar players or
Yeah,
three,
yeah.
and I think because that remember we talked about that was one of Eddie Van Halen's criticism of Jimmy Page. He couldn't do all the overdubs, all this stuff in concert, right? We're not going to rip on Led Zeppelin. We worship them, but I'm just saying. But with Skinner, the one guy, it's like Aerosmith. The guy can play the rhythm, and the other guy can play the lead. The other guy can play, whatever. I just think creatively, concert-wise, I think it's good to have. And that was the greatness of John Paul Jones. If you handed him a steel drum from the Bahamas, he'd be playing that bitch in five
Right,
minutes.
right,
That's the talent he had. But you got to
right.
have other. I don't know. I just love extra guitar players. Steve.
Nobody ever listened to a Led Zeppelin concert and said, "Hey, there needs to be
I
another
know.
guitar
I'm
track."
not ripping on it. Eddie Van Halen did.
Okay, guys, we're down to 2 minutes, so we got to wrap it up. Any final thoughts or comments or
Okay,
anything?
I'm going recommendation. I bought this for Steve. Uh, this, in Steve and I's opinion, is the greatest album ever made.
The Cult Electric.
Cult
What's that, like
Electric.
86 or something like that?
87. You were with me when I heard the
I
first
think I
song.
was. Yeah.
Back, you were.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, that's okay. And I'm like, I ran the guy. I'm like,
It's more than okay.
I said, who is this band? The guy goes,
Yeah.
he was nervous. He goes, it's the Cult. Take me
We
there.
we were in, was it Specs? We were in a
Specs,
record
in the
store in the
mall.
mall. Yeah. And this song played and Paul's losing his mind. And I'm going, all right, calm down.
If God made a rock album, it would be Electric from the Cult.
Okay. All right.
So I go and buy it. And then the guy goes, well, they have a alternative album called Love. So I think I bought Electra and I came back the next week and bought Love. And so when they first made this album, it actually was this album, Electric Peace. And the song
Okay.
tracks are there here. And it sounds a lot like the first album, but the band wanted a harder, edgier sound. So they brought this guy, Rick Rubin, famous bass
Right.
composer.
Right.
He
Right.
took a lot of those songs, they re-engineered them, they played a lot of the tracks over, and he
Okay.
turned this album, which is very interesting. Like if you want to learn what a job a producer does, here, get this
Oh yeah.
album here. Here's the first cut versus what came out to this. And
Okay.
so it's mind blowing.
Okay, clock's ticking down. I'm going to throw this out
Go
real
for
quick.
it.
We talked about Jim Croce earlier and specifically about the song Operator, and it is gut wrenching. So I'm going to add this one. It's Photographs and Memories. Was not a big hit single. The album was titled Photographs and Memories, and the song itself is barely over 2 minutes long, but man, it'll hit you deep in the heart, just like Operator. So highly recommended. It's not a hard rock song. It's not a classic rock song, but Photographs and Memories by Jim Croce, highly recommended.
I got a name
I,
too. Listen to that one too.
Yeah.
we got 1 minute left. So since we were talking about plane crashes, this is a composer, but James Horner also died in a plane crash in
He
I think
did?
20. Yeah, I did not even know this until just recently. It was like 2015, but he did the soundtrack to like Braveheart, Titanic,
Right.
Avatar, Aliens, and a couple of other well-known movies. But that's just amazing that he died in a plane crash as well.
Was
So
was it a small plane?
yeah, it was
Okay.
just him. I think he was
Okay.
piloting
It was about to run out. So listen, this is the great classic rock debate. I'm Kenny.
Paul.
Steve.
Yes. Thanks for watching. If you're watching right now, please like, comment, and subscribe. We'll see you next time.